Hey, this is Stephen Amell, and you are listening to Tomorrow's Legends, the podcast. Don't fail your city.
In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as Tomorrow's Legends.
And welcome to Yesterday's Legends, a show that takes you back in time to relive a time that we possibly enjoyed, depending on the episode. This week, it's just Flash here, just me. It's a solo show. Harley and Xforce are incapacitated at the moment due to some mental breakdown or something. I really don't know what's going on with them. But they were running around the ship trying to rewire Gideon, saying something like, "Grodd is our master, Grodd is our king." So I had to throw them in the brig until I could figure this thing out. Man, I leave the ship for 5 minutes and you let yourselves get taken over. I really don't get it. I mean, we've been doing this show for how many years now? You think you'd have this figured out? But no, Flash has to do everything. I just don't have the time to do everything. What's with these two anyways? Gosh, must be a conspiracy. What is going on, guys? You can't even look over your shoulders and you see a giant gorilla coming? Oh my.
And now, here are your hosts, the Scarlet Speedster himself, the Flash, the Maid of Mischief Harley Quinn, and the Blue Beacon of Hope, X-Force 11.
Harley, I've been looking all over the Wave Rider. Have you seen Flash?
No, but a jump ship is missing, and I saw a blur go by me saying something about Thanksgiving.
Well, it looks like Harley and I are off to Vietnam and Earth X without him. Tonight we're covering Season 3, Episodes 7 and 8, Welcome to the Jungle and Crisis on Earth X, Part 4. I'm the Blue Beacon of Hope, from the jungle to the battlefields of X-Force, from the battlefields of Earth X, X-Force 11.
And I'm Harley Quinn, still.
Hello, legends.
Well, he threw us off with that intro. Like, I had typed out a whole introduction on the play of why he wasn't here, and he threw us off.
He did.
Funny one.
But it's kind of funny because I like how he's like kind of grumbling. He's kind of like walking off, like he's his own thing. And then we kind of come in, we're like, what? What's happening?
Yeah. Oh, goodness. That was fun.
I think it works well, even though we pulled back the curtain a little bit. It's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a few reminders at the top of the show. Just a little bit of a reminder that we are part of the Cybercast Network, and we have a ton of shows that cover super awesome topics. So you are listening to us on Tomorrow's Legends, but we also have Dive into DC with Silver Fox and the Green Butterfly, and they are awesome, and they go into everything in the DC world. They do comics, they do movies, they do TV, they do it all. So you got to make sure to check them out because they are amazing. And of course, we have Flash's show, very, very popular Star Wars show, The Mandalore, over there with Dee Vizsla, and they're talking all about Ahsoka and all of the Disney Plus Star Wars stuff. So if you're into that, definitely check them out. I don't know what you're doing if you haven't checked that one out. It's very popular. And then Flash also has his own show, the Cybercast. It's his personal show. He doesn't release episodes very often, but it is very good. So if you've never listened and you're new, YouTube people, we see you. Yeah. We see you.
Yep.
You should go give it a listen because it's cool.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right, we got a little bit of news, so...
We interrupt this podcast for a special report.
So we got some good news that the CW scripted shows are coming back in April, and Superman and Lois, they said, will return a little bit later with their 10 episodes to allow time for the visual effects work. So I'm kind of betting maybe mid-May or June because we've got Doomsday and we've got all kinds of different stuff going on. So yeah, I'm betting it's going to be a little bit later, but they're saying, late spring, summer. So we'll see when it actually comes back. We'll really know once the writer's strike. Well, the writer's strike is over now, and that's
Yes.
why they're working on. They can give more firm dates because they can get started writing. But the actor strike is still ongoing. So once that gets resolved, we should have a little bit more firm dates.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'm hopeful that the actors can come to an agreement quickly now that the writers have been able to come to an agreement. So,
Yeah.
whereas, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we were just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is TV ever coming back?
Indeed. But you do not need to fear. We will have podcasts in your feed. So after this run of season 3 concludes in December, we're going to take a little bit of break, and then we're going to come back in mid-January and do another series that we haven't covered and may be new to some of y'all, and we'll give you more details on that soon. So we'll have some coverage to tide us over until Superman and Lois comes back. So never fear, we've got some superhero goodness waiting for you in the new year.
Love the rhyming.
All right. So we're going to get things kicked off with Welcome to the Jungle. And let's hop on the Wave Rider and take a listen to the intro for this episode way back when.
Flash? Are you here?
No, it's just me, Pigtails.
Mick? Where did Flash go?
I don't know. He put on his red jumpsuit and ran out of here. Who are you?
I'm Harley Quinn.
You kind of look like a clown. I hate clowns.
Hey, say that again and I'll show you what I'm all about.
Ah, she's tough. I like tough women. So what is all this stuff anyway? Looks like the same junk on the Wave Rider.
Watch yourself, Mr. Rory.
It's for podcasting. We record our show here.
Podcasting? Sounds like radio. I've been told I have a face for radio.
Yeah, you sure do.
What's so funny?
That was fun.
That was fun. I remember bits and pieces of that. I don't remember it being that long, but I remember a couple of his quips, and his Mick voice, of course, is always entertaining.
Oh, goodness. So even though he's not present with us tonight, you will be hearing Flash from time to time. He sent us some messages via the Wave Rider's communication system, so be on the lookout for that. But on this episode, Welcome to the Jungle, that I just have Guns N' Roses playing in my head whenever I see the
Me
title.
too.
I gave this one 8.5 gorgeous Grodd growls.
Nice.
So I really love the insight that we got into Mick's character in this episode, and I think it really helped him to grow and to start to change. Seeing Grodd again was powerful and fun, and I also liked seeing the legends start to piece together their personal ties to the missions that they have been on in this season. So I thought it was a very good episode.
Yeah, I agree. I actually really loved revisiting this episode. I gave it 9 daddy issues. And I'm right there with you. It was a Mick-centric episode, and I loved it. For some reason, I always thought this was the episode where Mick does his funny intro. So that one must be coming later this season. I also really loved our guest actor who played our guest, the main guest character that we have, and she was playing An Lee. And I really liked her. I thought the actress was super fantastic, and it kind of added another layer to the episode that I think we start to lack in later seasons. They really fleshed out these secondary characters in these earlier seasons, and I feel like we missed that in the later ones because we're just kind of focused on the main cast, except for, I guess, maybe Astra.
Yeah.
But then she becomes part of us. So anyway. I also really like that we start to see Zari kind of like opening up. She's starting to bond first, like with these characters, and then she's bonding a little with our team, but we'll, of course, see way more of that coming up later in our Hedgehog Day episode.
Yes, indeed. And here's Martin's first communique.
All right, here is my rating and review for episode 7, Welcome to the Jungle. I'm giving this one 8.5 daddy issues. So I remembered this one being good, and watching it again, it still is really good because we get, there's two sides to this episode. We get the in-depth Mick story, which we hadn't really gotten yet, dealing with his dad and having to face him again and realizing that his whole life he thought his dad was a monster, when he realizes in this episode that his dad had witnessed a lot of crap in Vietnam and it messed him up, and he brought that crap home and didn't know how to handle it, and he took it out on his family. And Mick, being a kid, wasn't able to understand that, but getting to witness what his dad went through as an adult gives him this understanding, and it allows him to be able to somehow make amends with his dad before he ends up doing what he ends up doing when he's a kid. So my only question though with that is, this is similar to the Snart story. When Snart went back to see his dad, he wasn't allowed to interfere or to try to change his dad's path. I mean, he did a little bit, but his dad still ended up going to rob that giant emerald gem or whatever the story was back then. So it was teaching us back then that you can't alter the timeline. You can't make changes to your family. So I was kind of thinking about that with Mick here. I said, Mick tried to help his dad be a better person and to teach him to not bring this Vietnam stuff home. Otherwise, he's going to take it out on his family. And I always wondered if that ever had an effect. If his dad came home and maybe was a little different, maybe was a little bit better of a father, but something else happened similar to Snart's dad. Something else happened that still caused him to take his grief out on his family. I don't know. So I was just wondering about that. But I just loved the in-depth story for Mick, and watching Dominic Purcell get to dive into that a little bit and show some emotion, and then along with that, I also love the handshake with Nate. Just a silent thank you for helping me work through some of that. Thank you for being there for me. You're a buddy. Like I love that silent acknowledgement between the two of them, and Nate felt it. Nate knew what Mick was trying to say there with the silent handshake. So just really, really cool moment. That's probably my favorite part of the episode. And then the other half, you've got Gorilla Grodd. I mean, this massively huge character from The Flash ends up on our show, and it's a tense situation. Like, he's in the middle of Vietnam and he's trying to kill the president, and he wants the US and Russia to start World War III because he figures if they take each other out, the world could be a peaceful place. And ultimately, you look at his plan, he's just trying to help humans, help them be better and help them have a better, more peaceful world. And ultimately, I mean, it's not a bad thing. His intentions, it's just what he's planning on doing ain't the greatest thing. I mean, he's going to kill millions of people with the World War III or whatever. But it was just an interesting idea to show Grodd in a different light, that he ultimately just wants to help and wants to have a better world, despite what was done to him, despite how much he could hate humans because of his initial tortures in his life. He still wants to help the world be better. And it really gives Grodd this sense of depth as well that we never really thought. We just thought he was a big mean monkey, right? So I also liked the strength of his powers here, his mental abilities that were on display. And that's a scary thing. That makes Grodd a pretty scary villain. Not only is he a big, strong gorilla, but the fact that he can take over so many minds, and he doesn't even have to be near you to do it. Like, anyway, it's just a double-edged threat, this episode, or double-edged story, and I loved it. And this one really maybe I'll even bump my rating up to a 9 because it really, really encompassed a lot. If there was only one thing that I didn't like, it was the actor playing the president. That was awful. That was atrocious. That was just gaggingly awful acting. He was bad. So anyway, here you go, guys. Enjoy the rest of the show. I will send in some feedback for the crossover event if I have time to watch those and get it into you by the time we get to that part of the recording. This is The Flash. Talk to you later.
All right, so
Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe.
All right. Well, welcome to the jungle, indeed. And hopefully you've got the same song stuck in your head that Jeff and I have had all week. Alrighty. So I got to the notes on this one first. So we are going to start with some points on our Vietnam storyline. So this was our anachronism of the week with Sarah out of commission. I love that they actually have backstories when they go into Vietnam. They they're with the Associated Press. I think they end up ditching that in later seasons, or maybe not fleshing it out as well, or maybe just not mentioning it at all, and we're just left to assume that they've come up with a story. So I kind of like that they are still trying to fit more into the time period at this point of the series.
Yeah, it makes it so much more fun to see them try to blend in, and then they just can't. So it's a lot of fun. So
yeah, exactly. I love that they were kind of debating even what to do. Also, they're well, should we do something? And they're well, we kind of have to do something. We can't just sit here waiting for her to wake up. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And it was good to see Gorilla Grodd as our anachronism. I mean, as Flash was saying, I mean, was such a big part of the Flash show, and getting to see him over on Legends was super cool. And I agree. I thought they did a really, really great job with him. Just the way that the story was woven together, and even just the way that they featured him, there was a lot of dark scenes to make the CGI maybe blend a little bit better. But then he was more prominent in the episode than I remembered, to be honest. So they must have had a good budget for this one.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing to see him again, and I think the CGI looked great. Just even the times that he's out in the open. I mean, I'm it's pretty good budget there. So
yeah, he was looking good. He was menacing. He's scary, and I love it. And just the way that the actors he takes over, pull that off. That was they do a good job with the takeovers. It was very believable.
Yeah.
And the other point I have in this section, this one's going to go fast because most of our meat is further down. But I had completely forgotten about this quote, bigger connection, where they've got each of them running into either their family members or in some cases themselves. Do we keep going with that throughout season 3? Because I had completely forgotten about this, and I don't know if it's because it's dropped or if it's because I've been so long.
Yeah, I missed your note there, and I had it down in the Zari section. But I mean, I Nate and Zari come up with this, that each of their missions basically have been tied to their family in some way. And I'm with you. I don't honestly remember where it stops and the motivation behind it. I mean, I think there's some ties behind it, but I just don't remember how it plays out. And that's kind of exciting to okay, yeah, let's think about this. So
I know, yeah, sort of a little mystery, a little thing that I had forgotten. So that's always cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll continue to see how it plays out. Anything else you wanted to talk about in this section before we move on to Mick?
No, I think we can move on to Mick.
All right. Well, of course, this was such a heavy Mick episode because we get to meet his dad in the jungle. And wow, was he really, really not happy to see him? wow. I mean, just I had forgotten, I guess. I mean, I remembered him this episode. I remembered him like seeing his dad. I just kind of forgot like the details of it. You know what I mean? Like I forgot like what like a visceral reaction he has to actually seeing his dad. And I mean, we find out the reason for that. But also just like the similarities that they have between like the Mick character and his dad's character. It's really incredible. I don't know. I'm trying to remember if we had a little, we have a very little bit of mixed history, but now again, it's been so long, even since our last rewatches. I had thought they kind of maybe retconned some stuff with him and his dad in this episode a little bit. But I can't quite remember. So other than that, I feel like, they wanted them to be similar intentionally, or maybe that was part of the retcon. I don't know. But the actor I felt like he did a really fantastic job kind of nailing the Mick persona to like show the similarity there. It's not always easy to do. So
yeah, Evan Jones did a great job, and they're both firebugs. Enjoyed their flamethrowers, and this was just. I mean, it was really shocking because we learn here that Mick let his dad burn to death. And that was just a huge shocker. I mean, we could have guessed the abuse, but like that he let it go that far was just so like out there. It was just like,
yeah, because before, and I think this is where it's starting to feel, maybe that part of it started to feel a little retconny, is I feel like back in season 1, when we get a flashback episode where he runs into himself. Do we not? I distinctly remember that with
I do too. I just can't remember
and there's some like lost home for boys or something, like some like time displaced orphanage. It was like a whole thing. I'm 99% sure that was in season 1. But during that, they talk about how he set the fire and then got scared and ran out of the house, even though he still gets burned a little bit. And then he's like transfixed by the flames. And so he doesn't go back to save his family. And so I can't tell if this was a little bit of a retcon or just trying to add a little bit of the layers, saying like he set the fire in the first place. Like it wasn't really an accident.
Yeah.
But, but was he really trying to kill the rest of his family, or is he just trying to get his dad, and then he gets scared and runs out? So maybe that's that.
Yeah. And maybe he's rationalized that he let his dad burn, or because he froze up. I don't know, but it just gives us more insights, more facets to his character.
Yeah.
And I really thought it was neat because they show how that Dick has a care for his men in his unit, and how the losses mean a lot to him, and how much the woman who will become Mick's mom means to him. And I just, his talk about not wanting to bring the war home just made it hit so much harder. My uncle was in Vietnam. He was driving trucks, so he wasn't like in the battle zones a ton of stuff. But I mean, I know how hard it was for that generation. Just what they saw, the type of war it was, and the reception they got when they came home was just atrocious. And so they were not getting the care that they needed. And here he's talking about not wanting to bring this home. And we know that by not wanting to share that, it affected his entire family. So you get all this unspoken weight because of what he says and what we know about Mick.
Yeah, no, I know. It was great storyline. Very powerful, very good episode. So I very much enjoyed it. So now this is what Flash alluded to a lot within his rating. And so I thought maybe we could dig into a little bit of it here. So there's an act that Mick stops his dad from performing, which basically is he was gonna kill a whole bunch of people. I guess traitors. I don't know. We're gonna hear that scene again, so we can maybe talk about it a little bit more then. But if this was the scene that makes his dad into who he is in the future, then like it wouldn't be able to track. There would have to be something else to come. Otherwise, he shouldn't be the same. Like he should change, which then means Mick's childhood would change, which could possibly completely derail something. So something else has to happen to him between now and the time that he goes home to turn him into the person that he becomes, is kind of my feeling on it. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think there may have been stuff, maybe more losses of men and things like that, or something that happened once he got home, that didn't happen before. Maybe family members blaming him for the soldiers not. There's something else that led up, and it's one of those things. It's like you change one thing, but the history is not going to let
itself change.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where we've dealt with enough time travel shows and different things to see how the past is obdurate.
Yes, thank you for making that reference.
So it's one of those things where I truly believe it did make a change, but something else happened in order to give us the Mick that we have now. So
yeah, time wants to happen, doesn't want to change.
So and we'll hear that scene again because that is my favorite scene.
It's a good one.
But between the father and son there, so that was a powerful one. So
yeah, maybe we'll pick up on something else then.
Yeah.
All right, shall we dive into Fire Sign? You've got the first note on this one.
Yes, I loved seeing Stein beating down the dummy with the bow sticks to try to wake Sarah up. Because you just see the dummy and you see the hits striking and you're like, okay. And then the last person you're expecting to see is it's Stein.
No, that cracked me up. I was like, is he training? Wait, does he train? Is that a thing? How does that not help him in the next episode?
Yeah. But he was doing the audio clues to try to wake her up out of the coma.
Yes, I thought that was hilarious. Like, maybe if she hears something she loves, she'll wake up, or whatever he phrases it.
Yeah.
Oh, that made me laugh. That and the fact that he was totally rounding up famous scientists to help him solve his problem with like his quantum entanglement with Jax. I had completely forgotten that detail. Now, I do have a little bit of a nitpick about it, though, of course, because funnily enough, early physicists can't really help with physics that's invented centuries after they died because they have no knowledge of it. Yeah. And so that was just like a small little nitpick that, as brilliant as Newton and Galileo were, they have no concept of quantum physics, which is everything in Stein's realm. Now, the only one I'll give them a little bit of a pass on is Curie, because she does know a good bit about the atomic physics, but not about quantum entanglement, which again was long after she was dead.
Yeah.
So they just wanted the recognition. So kudos to that. It was very funny, but just it stood out to me.
Yeah, I mean, they would have had to do more explaining of who they were. Of saying, okay, this is X scientist who is famous for whatever, and they just didn't have the time to do that. So
most people don't know that like quantum mechanics is a complete breakdown of Newtonian physics, which is named for the man who founded it, which was Isaac Newton.
Yeah,
but it has to come after Isaac Newton. So, anyways, it's just it's a nitpick, but it's not like it affected anything. I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, but it kind of reminded me of the Council of Wells over on Flash, where like he would pull in, versions of himself from different Earths to, try to solve issues and different things like that. So
I wonder if this gave them the idea for that.
It's entirely possible. Entirely possible.
Yep. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So Jax is talking with Sarah in the coma while she's in the coma about being a hero without powers. And I really thought this was touching. And honestly, it was sad too, because the show just really never found a way for him to excel and have like true purpose without powers. And so hearing him talk about it with this passion and knowing where it goes afterwards, it just makes me sad. It's one of those things where, oh, come on. They could have, if they could have done something. Yeah. So
with that, I know, I agree. I feel like there were just a few missed opportunities with this storyline. Not that they did bad with it. I mean, it was great. What they wanted to focus on, which we're going to get into a lot more in a little bit, was their relationship. And they did a great job of bringing that piece home. It was emotional. It was heart-wrenching. We're going to have to talk about it again, even though I don't want to, but we're going to have to talk about it. But this bit, I feel like there was a little bit left on the table. I know they wanted to like completely axe Firestorm because of the cost of the special effects, like, and the logistics. I get that. Yeah. But I do agree that they maybe could have found a different way to make Jax more useful. It was kind of a shame to lose his character. He was a great character.
Yeah.
But anyways, where was I going with that? Oh, on to my next note, apparently, is where I was going with that. So he's, of course, all right. So he's trying to prove he's relevant without his powers, right? Which, this was reckless, in my opinion. I disliked this part of the story the most, where he goes in, he kind of saves the president, but I felt like he was being reckless. He didn't really know what he was doing. I feel like he kind of just got lucky. I mean, he's very mechanically inclined, but I don't know. So, I mean, maybe I guess like diffusing those bombs was his like more like mechanical prowess, because like the old timey bombs are more mechanical based than anything else. But I don't know. It just, this bit of the story, it doesn't, I don't like this storyline at all. I didn't like the guy that plays the president. I didn't like any of it. Yeah,
the prosthetic nose, just I assume it was a
prosthetic. Okay.
I don't know, but I'm guessing it maybe was, but I just don't know. But anyway, yeah, I didn't particularly care for his take on the president. But a fun bit of trivia was the way that Jax saves the president was the very way during Vietnam that Norman Schwarzkopf, Stormin' Norman, saved soldiers using shaving cream, and he was awarded a Silver Star for his creative thinking. So it was actually happened in Vietnam, and it was a way to do it. So now whether Jax knew about that, I don't know, but like, it was interesting. So
I would believe Jax being more of a history buff, or maybe picking some random trivia up from Nate, who just kind of blathers on about history, or at least, in this part of the season still does randomly. That's believable. I was like, I mean, I knew that was like a thing. Like I saw what he was doing and it was believable for the era. I just wasn't sure that I believed that Jax would know how to do that. But knowing that was an actual technique and someone was famous for it, if it's like a historical bit of history and trivia, then it's more plausible for me how he knew that solution. That actually helps me a little bit. So makes me feel better about that. Yeah. Very cool. Okay, one last bit. I completely did not remember this. Stein straight out was just gonna like murder Grodd. He was just like, nope, bye, see ya. You can burn in the jungle, big giant crazy ape. I did not remember that at all.
No.
Of course, Damien Dark saves him, and we, live to see him another day. Although I don't remember that day, but apparently we're gonna see him another day.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't remember him trying to, like, he was like, nope, sorry, bye, gonna murder you now. Okay.
Yeah.
It just seemed cold for Stein.
Just throw him off into the.
It seemed a little out of character to me.
Yeah.
But anyway. All right. Well, speaking of Grodd, let's chat a little bit about Amaya, because she has some really great moments with Grodd throughout this episode. I really kind of liked the way they used her to explore him and his story, and sort of maybe like flesh a few things out for people that maybe hadn't watched The Flash.
Yeah, it was interesting to see him try and explain his reasoning behind things, and to give insight there. And she offered him the opportunity to live in a time before humans, and that was an interesting idea of her kind of taking Zari's approach to things, and okay, let's see if we can offer him a way to work around. But that idea just barrels out of control, because he's like, oh, without humans, let's blow them all up.
Yeah, well, it's like the classic AI conundrum. What's the fastest way to have world peace? Get rid of all the humans.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was fun, but I did like the moments that they kind of gave that character with Grodd. It was good. Now, another tidbit about her: she states at some point she's willing to give Kwasa the benefit of the doubt, although that should change history. So I'm sure they resolve it, like probably. And now that I'm about to say this, I think this might be what happened. Don't they mind wipe Amaya before they return her back to Zambezi for the final time, so that history can actually play out?
That sounds right, because I think she actually wanted it to.
Yeah, because she knows way too much.
Right, and I think she wouldn't be able to go forward to produce grandchildren if she was still thinking about Nate and other stuff. So I think they actually do at her request. So
yeah, so we'll have to get that reminder later, but
yeah, we'll see how they resolve it.
Yeah, because they have to, because she comes back in the finale as herself aged. So anyway, we'll get that resolved eventually.
Yeah.
The finale. Anyway, we'll get there when we get there. All right, so last few bits here we have are about Zari.
Yeah, they call out Zari for not following the plan with Helen.
Oh yeah.
And then she just straight out walks out, her reasoning. And I love the fact that this far in, she's just been with him a very short time.
Yeah.
She's already, flexing her wits and her theories and her way of doing things, and standing up for, okay, well, listen, this is, this, you may not have done it this way, but this is, it makes sense. I'm not ruining anything. And so even being that new, she's willing to stand up and walk things out for him.
Yeah. Well, I just love that she's put that much thought into it. And of course she's like super brilliant, so she knows that it's airtight, but I like that it's completely thought through. It's very actually anti-Legends. It's not like flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, exactly.
Chainsawing your way and hoping for the best or whatever, screwing things up for the better. Like it's kind of screwing things up for the better, but it's in a way that it has absolutely no change to history. And so I agree. I love that she's got everything like thought through and is like, nope, it works. Here's why. Thanks.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I kind of talked about a little bit was just she got to form this bond with An Lee, who's our like Grodd interface or Grodd worshiper. And so I like when they just kind of showcase that with her in these early episodes, because she just comes from such a dystopian future, and she feels so like hardened when we first pick her up, but already in these last couple of episodes, she's kind of starting to bond with people that she feels like a connection with. This woman lost her family the same way Zari lost her family just decades earlier. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. You know, we saw it with Helen last episode. We see it here with Onley. She sees survivors like her, and she can bond and connect with them quickly. And I think that's a trait that, the Legends were lacking.
Yeah.
That ability to be able to see beyond the survivor instinct and see who they really are and connect with those people. So I really appreciate that facet that she brings to the Legends team.
Yeah. No, yeah. Me too.
All right. Well, anything else we want to talk about before we get to favorite scenes?
I don't think so. I think we covered it.
Shape out an eagle!
All right. I have the first clip here, and I chose "If you want peace, it starts with you."
You're planning to kill the president?
We're defending our home against those who have attacked us.
Which I'm all for, believe me, but you need to draw a line somewhere.
God is only doing what is necessary.
Necessary for who? He only cares about himself. That's how dictators work.
I have lost both my parents, my brother, my village. And Doimoy is the only one left to protect us.
I know what it's like to lose the people you love in a senseless war. It makes you desperate, but if you really want peace, it starts with you. Did you guys hear that? They're targeting the president's convoy.
Hard to cut it off.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah, no, I like that one. I've kind of already talked about this a lot, but I like her ability to connect with some of these other characters and reach them in a way that, probably the only other person that would have been able to reach her was probably like Sarah, but Sarah's in a coma in this episode.
Yeah. She's off filming.
The
actress, that's why she was in a coma, because she was filming the crossover.
She was doing something else. I know. In later seasons it becomes because she's directing. There's always a reason when she mysteriously disappears for an episode.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, I'm up next, and I call this Son and Father Heart to Heart.
Time to pay the entrance fee to this circus.
Don't.
What are you doing?
Saving your life.
What are you talking about?
I know what's going on in that head of yours. But killing these people is not going to bring back your men.
What do you know about anything?
Mick, you do realize what will happen if you kill him?
Don't care.
This is insubordination, son. I wouldn't have expected that from you.
Well, you know me.
Lower your weapon.
Lower yours. I got nothing to lose. But you do. You get to go home. But if you kill these people, you'll hear their screams forever. And one day, when you have a family, you won't be able to look them in the eye. Because this day, this act you're about to commit will be burned in your memory forever.
Why'd you do that?
I always wanted to.
Yeah, it was great seeing Mick stand up to his dad, and it was just powerful of, him willing to take the chance of either he gets killed or he kills his dad, but he's standing up for what is right. So I really thought that was a powerful scene.
Yeah, no, it was for sure. Does make you wonder if anything changed or if history found a way to happen. So,
all right. Well, The Flash has a favorite scene, and this is, I had to listen to the start to know where to put them on my tablet.
Oh.
So he's got a little bit lighter scene. So let's take a listen.
All right, favorite scenes. I am going with the one where they're all sitting in the room talking about the pie. When they're all in the kitchen, I should say, talking about the pie, and innocent little Boy Scout Ray just sticks his foot in his mouth at the same time as the pie because he doesn't realize what he's saying. Oh, I miss the hilarious moments of our team. I really do. So here's that scene.
President Johnson gave you a pie recipe.
Well, not just any recipe.
Lady Bird Johnson's pecan pie was legendary. The ingredients were a very closely kept secret for a long time.
Yeah, it's almost as good as my mom's pie.
I don't know. First Lady pie's pretty good.
Okay. I just... The look on his face afterwards is just...
Yeah.
Oh, Larry, he's just like,
Oh.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
All right, we are back, and we've got a skit, and let me pull it up. There we go.
Harley, what are you doing?
I'm so angry.
But why? What are you so angry about?
Because they killed off one of my favorite characters.
But we've got company here tonight. You're kind of putting out a bad impression.
Hey guys.
What's going on?
Everything okay? Are you all right?
This is Harley. Sometimes she acts up a little bit.
I just feel very strongly about something on this episode, and I just need to get it out. I just need to be heard.
That's all right, Harley. Let it out.
Work through the anger.
Julia and Jada from CCU days, so that was fun.
That was fun and so accurate.
Indeed. So, listen.
I was really smashing things in that one.
Yeah. That no sound effects needed, you know.
No, none. I broke stuff.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I gave this one 9 crossovers that set the bar high.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, crossovers are hard. How do you pull in multiple shows with huge cast on each show and make it work? Some years they do it better than others. This one had most of our key players from each show playing a part. It felt organic, it felt real, the stakes were high, but it felt right. I was happy they finished the crossover on Legends and that we played a key part. And I'm happy with, am I happy with the way they wrote Victor off the show? No. But I felt he and Fran's acting gave the crossover weight, and I feel we needed it. And we get bigger crossovers and bigger cast in years to come.
Yeah.
But this is the best one, in my opinion, because of a lot of different elements that we'll get into. I just think this was truly the best crossover we had out of all of them.
I agree with you. I'm going to get to my rating in a second, but as a side note, the crossover that comes after this, is it Crisis on Earth? Crisis on Earth X. The other Crisis with all the crazy things.
No, that was a couple years later.
Okay. Did we have a crossover in between those? I just can't remember.
Yes. You talk and I'll look up what the crossover was.
What it was. Okay.
Yeah.
TBD. Let me get through my rating. All right. I also gave this one a 9. Who needs an army when you got Legends? I love that. I love Nate showing up and saying that. Just loved it. Despite its obvious major downside, which was killing Stein, this was an absolutely epic crossover event. I mean, easily the best one. And from what I remember, this was by far the most challenging. There was an absolute ton of action. The effects are fantastic, especially compared to what we get in later seasons after budgets have been slashed. I mean, I absolutely love how they told an organic 4-part story while still managing to have each time slot feel like it belonged to its respective show. Like, it was incredibly well done. I thought it was kind of great that they left the rest of the legends off until this last episode, because they're in the time stream. You know, it makes sense. And it also gives them a little bit of an out. But I feel like we didn't like that the first time around, where we were kind of like, how come only a couple of the legends get to come? Like, what gives?
Yeah.
But I think it made a lot of sense for how the story evolves. And it was also a little bit more natural. I mean, aside from Ray, it's really understandable why the rest of them don't come to the wedding. They don't really know them. So it wouldn't have made sense for them to show up. Now, personally, I would have thought Ray should have come instead of Rory. But hey, here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the next season was Elseworlds, and we weren't a part of that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was a Batwoman thing. I remember that being pretty good. Not as good as this.
Yeah. Elseworlds was pretty good because you had the Barry and Ollie switching bodies.
Yes. Oh, that's so funny. Oh my gosh. So funny.
Yes, indeed. So Flash had his rating, so let's take a listen.
All right, legends, let's get into this 4-part crossover called Crisis on Earth X. Man, I was able to watch all 4 of them back to back to back in one sitting. And I think that is the only way to do this crossover. Oh my God. I remember now why this was hailed as the best crossover of all time, because it is so good. I'm rating it a 9.5. I don't know, 9.5 interdimensional portals between Earths. Yeah, there you go. It's so good. This was the peak of the Arrowverse. Every show coming together, all of our characters, it just gave me nostalgic feelings, remembering what it was like when all these characters knew each other and knew each other well and got to hang out and fight together and be friends and share emotions and share stories and back each other up and be there for each other, and all the different characters interacting and getting along as if they've known each other for years. I don't know, for some reason, just watching it this time, that is what really sunk in, is that these shows felt so intertwined and so mixed. And that's why I say I think this is the Arrowverse at its peak, at its highest element, because everybody was just ticking along at their best. The performances were there, the good side, the bad side, the emotions were there, the expression, everything was just, the action, the fighting, it was all so good. It was all so well done back then. Each show respectively in their own seasons, just coming together. And it's as if every week we watch these guys work together. Like, I forget the feeling of watching each show individually and then just waiting all year long for the next crossover event, because watching all 4 of these in a row, it just felt like this is the way it was all the time. It just never was anything else. And I miss it. I miss the Arrowverse, and it really sucks to not have any of it anymore. I mean, yeah, we cover Superman and Lois, but it's not the Arrowverse anymore. Like, you go back to see all these characters together. It was just so much fun. Just so much fun. And, I just a lot of the points in this one, we used to always pick on, or at least I did anyway, Iris in the later seasons, how she got more annoying as the show went on. And, in later seasons, they tried to sell us on her being just as smart as all these brilliant scientists and able to lead the team and figure stuff out. I just love way back then, they didn't do that yet. Iris wasn't annoying. When she's in the room with all the scientists and they're babbling on with all these big words, she's like, guys, what does all that mean? Like, seriously, I have no idea what you're talking about. I loved it. I love that they let her admit that doesn't understand, that they're all smarter than her. That's when Iris was still okay. And I didn't mind the love story with her and Barry. I love the whole wedding stuff. I mean, I actually got tears. How many years has it been since we watched this stuff? I actually cried during their wedding moments, during Supergirl or Kara singing that song, the same song that Barry sings to Iris at the end of the musical episode. Oh my God, I all of it just pulled on the heartstrings again. I had missed all this stuff. I forgot all about it, and I cried. I was legitimately tearing up at that scene again, and even at the very end, you know, when they do finally get married at the very end of the Legends episode, I remember everybody bitching about Felicity interrupting the wedding, and everyone was so mad about that. And you know what? This time, I didn't even care. I thought, how perfect. 2 sets of couples, 2 best friends, all 4 of them getting married together at the same time. It's perfect. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful moment. The 4 friends getting married together. It's unusual. It's rare. That doesn't happen very often. And I thought it was actually pretty nice. It didn't bother me at all. Things like Snark coming back, and you know, and he now has a boyfriend instead, and our lovable Mick Rory just can't quite handle it, and he isn't sure how to handle it. He just wants to drink. I mean, I just love it. There's just so much fun stuff in this, and it was just great. I know we're supposed to talk about episode 4 mostly. I mean, this was the Legends episode. We finally had our full team here. Zari in her superhero outfit again, not the ISIS one, but a new one, and it's the only time she ever wears it, and yet she looks so damn awesome. Come on, like, let her have the super outfit and play superhero for the rest of the show, would you? But anyway, it was all good. It was all good stuff. I just really enjoyed it. So you guys carry on with the show and have a good discussion about it going down memory lane, because I know I really enjoyed it. In fact, I think I enjoyed this better than the first time around when it came out, because I got to watch all 4 episodes back to back to back, and just the emotion and the thrill of it all just got to truck along for almost 2 hours. It was cool. Have a good show, guys. Flash is out.
Yeah, I actually ended up watching it like it aired. I watched the first 2 episodes on one night and the second 2 episodes on a different night. So I watched it because originally it was like Tuesday night and Wednesday night. So that's how they aired. So that's kind of how I watched it, just to give a little space this week. So
yeah, I watched one, took a few days off, watched 2 in a row, and that was like during the day, while I was working. Hope the coworkers don't watch this podcast. Or listen to this podcast. And then I finished it off and did notes last night. So
yeah. All right.
But it was good.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give a short recap of parts 1 through 3. So basically, we've got Nazi versions of Ollie, Kara, and we've got Wells arriving on our Earth, breaking up the wedding between Barry and Iris. They've come to get Kara because their version of Kara has a weak heart and needs a transplant. And they also steal the tech in order to depower both women in order to do the surgery. And they send most of our heroes over to Earth X, start the process. Over there on Earth X, our heroes connect with the Resistance. We've got General Windshot, we've got Citizen Cold, and we've got the Ray. And they get through the gateway, fighting off the Nazis and Red Tornado, but the battle is costly. So that's where we pick up in part 4. So I got to the notes first, and it was a little hard to do. I mean, it's just...
I thought you did a great job.
Yeah. So we start off on Earth X. So Stein has been hit, and he gets hit again while trying to turn on the portal. And we get Ray and the Flash taking down Red Tornado. And so then the team is able to cross over, so at great cost.
Yes. Okay. My least favorite scene in the entire series. Look, all right. I'm never going to love this. I wish he could have retired, but they clearly needed a casualty from our big team, right? And sadly, he kind of made the most sense. As I was rewatching this, I was like trying to process everything and try to be like, okay, like, did they really have to do this? And given the high stakes situation, I think that they did. I think it either had to be him or Harry, who Oliver ends up saving earlier in the crossover event, right? So they kind of like give you a lot of red herrings, like, oh, is this person going to die? Oh, is it going to be this person? Is it going to be this person? And then out of nowhere, seemingly, I mean, it's not really, but they end up, killing Martinstein. And so I will concede he at least died fulfilling a purpose, which was thankful. It wasn't just drama for drama, because I hate it when they do drama for drama.
Oh yeah.
I still wish they would have let him retire after the build up to it all season. But in hindsight, I hate hindsight. But it's clear they really wanted us to have that emotional buy-in when they killed him in the crossover. So that was the whole reason that we got so much time with him and Jax, really building that relationship, seeing him bond with his son or his grandson, seeing him bonding like with his family, and just like so excited to be in that family unit. And then they just rip our hearts out. Yeah. I still don't like it, and you can't make me.
No, I totally agree, and I think he's got the weight because Flash fans knew him, the Legends fans knew him.
Yep.
It's one of those characters who has weight on multiple shows, and I like, yes, it fulfilled the purpose, but I don't like it either.
Yeah.
I don't know a way that they could have, I'm just thinking about another character that they could have gotten rid of,
that would have had that much
that
weight.
would have had that weight. And I just, honestly, I don't know of one, that they could have.
Other than a main cast character, which they weren't going to do.
Right, yeah. So, it's rough. I mean, the way that they did it, it was powerful and well written. I agree with you. I don't like the fact that he was not given the future that that we wanted him to have. So it's just, but then again, and that makes it more powerful. So yeah, it was just rough.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, it was devastating. It was devastating to watch all over again. But I will say, of all the people that end up leaving this show, that end up being killed off, that end up leaving in like other ways, this is by far the biggest send off, and it was very, very well done.
Yeah.
I mean, it was gut wrenching.
Yeah.
Which we will get to. But just saying.
Yeah.
At least he got that.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I think this is our show's powerful send-off of a character.
Yeah.
I don't think there's another character on this show that got that powerful. Like, this is like Ollie level send-off.
Yeah.
Like when Ollie died, like that's that level, and I don't think we got that from any other character. And so I'm happy that we got just that depth, but yeah, it was still hard. So
it was hard, yeah, because we have many other characters leave, especially on our show, and they don't get half the treatment that he got. So I do, in that, obviously in hindsight, I mean, that is what it is, but I do feel at least better about that.
Yeah. Over on Earth 1, we get Adam saving Kara, and this was very cool because, like, you're like, uh-oh, she's gonna get injured, and I did not remember this at all, and it's tiny Adam saving her from the knife, and then our whole Legends crew show up to save the day. It was just so cool.
Yes, I know. This is the scene that I took my rating inspiration from, because that's exactly what Nate says when he shows up. He's like, "Who needs an army when you've got legends?" I love Nate this season. I feel like Nick really hit his stride with the character.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. A rewatch will only tell me how I truly feel about seasons 4 and later. I know he bros out way more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really loved him still in this season. He had really hit his stride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And we get a very powerful scene where we've got a Ollie versus Ollie standoff. And we just don't know how it's going to go. But then Reverse Flash comes in and saves all the baddies. So it's like,
Oh, he does indeed. We're going to hear part of this scene later, actually, because so much of this episode was either a battle or Stein's death, and you knew I wasn't going to pick any of that.
Yeah.
So, we'll hear this again later. The one thing that stood out to me was this battle with Metallo that they have not long after this. I actually really loved seeing all of them kind of like team up to like take him down, and you get effects for each of their powers, and then plus the head kind of blowing off like the Terminator, where it just like comes up above the flames and stuff. I thought that was great. One of the great scenes.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but yeah, I agree. It was well done, and I was really close to choosing your favorite scene.
Oh yeah,
but I'm like, I just feel I need to do,
I know. I saw your choice and I was like,
so
no.
I was glad when you picked your scene. So we'll
okay,
get that
good.
too.
Well, good.
Yeah. So after the battle, and we'll talk about the battle more in a little bit, but we get to see reconnections. We get to see Barry and Iris reconnect. We get Kara and Alex talking. We get a beautiful scene of Snart and Mick being reunited. And we find out that on Earth X, Mick died saving the police officers from a fire. And it was just like, I died saving pigs. It was just hilarious. So I thought this was, seeing the two of them together is always fun. But this version of Snart and Mick together is just hilarious, this whole episode.
Oh, it's so funny because he's so taken off guard by Snart, because it's Snart in his like same manner of speaking, but he's like upbeat and cheerful and like put together, he's not like flying by the seat of his pants and having no plan. He's like, that's a terrible saying. It's like, oh my God. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
So.
That the Snart plan thing is like, I put it up on TikTok because like people were using it and not attributing it. They were just using the audio. And so I actually put the scene up because it's just so good, so iconic. And he's like, this version is like, that's awful. I always have a plan down to the second. So I just loved it. So
like with the exact same inflection, he's like, that's terrible advice. Never do that. I always have a plan. I was like, I love you so much. I've missed you.
Yeah. So technically her name is Overgirl.
Yeah, technically.
Yeah, so they were doing, there's a whole comic story where there's the evil versions of our heroes, but so Kara is Overgirl. I called her General Kara.
She was a general.
Yeah, she turns out she's not just gonna die because of her solar radiation poisoning. She's gonna explode and take out most of the Midwest if she does. So, the stakes were pretty high here because you've got that, and then you've got their version of the Wave Riders doomsday device, so that was going to knock out multiple dimensions or whatever. So it's like wild.
Yeah, I got a little fuzzy on the doomsday device, but seeing as we didn't really have to worry about it, I kind of didn't really think too hard about that one. But yeah, not only is she going to explode, she's going to turn into a supernova, which if she's gonna supernova, yet only take out a portion of the Midwest, that seems like a really light supernova.
Well, I mean,
But-
I think that was who was it that said that was going to take out most of the Midwest. I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Someone.
but anyway,
But yeah,
maybe
they're
their
making a-
calculations were wrong.
Yeah, well, because they were making a really big deal about the Chandrasekhar limit, and of course, like Curtis is like, well, everybody knows what that means, and some people are like, no, that's the critical mass of when the black hole it hits its critical mass, and then it supernova.
Okay.
Or
Good.
the star, not the black hole. Sorry,
Yeah.
It goes one way or the other. It either supernovas or it turns into a black hole.
Thank you, Science Harley.
Yes, you're welcome. I'm back.
Yeah.
It's been many years.
All right. So we'll talk about this and kind of get through it. Jax and Stein merge into Firestorm in order to keep Stein alive, but it ends up it's going to kill Jax. He's become Martin's life support, and Stein basically knows and breaks the news to Jax. And listen, like we talked about, we were not happy about this storyline then. We're still not happy about it now. But my favorite scene, we'll get to it, but Franz and Victor's acting, they just act the hell out of it. It was just so good between the two of them.
I know. This was so hard to watch again.
Mm-hmm.
This scene, the next scenes that we're going to talk about, and then the funeral, I'm just like, oh my God, I did not remember all of this. This is so hard. Why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was tough. It was just tears. Just tears.
Yeah. And I really appreciate the funeral. I think they did a very good job with it, showing people mourning his loss, those closest to him. And I appreciate how his family recognizes that Jax is family, and and appreciating what he did. But it was just hard. It really was. But I think they did the funeral well. So I appreciate
on it later, the actual funeral. But
so it's well, yeah.
We have a few notes on the funeral. I think this note was like, remember how they showed like the montage of like everyone reacting to the news that Stein died.
Yeah.
This was hard to watch.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's true. That's that's what we're talking about there is everybody was mourning his loss, especially our legends there on the Wave Riders. So
yeah. Oh God, it's so hard to watch.
All right. So we kind of go to the Earth X enemies. They're Gideon, who was voiced by uncredited by Susanna Thompson, aka Maura Queen.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like,
twist.
that voice sounds familiar. Let me go into IMDb, and it's like, oh, it's Maura. So she was their version's Gideon. She says that Overgirl has an hour to live, and so we've got the deadline going into the battle scene. So
okay, that's right. That gives us our timestamp to know we don't have much time left. Okay.
Yeah. So here's where we'll get into the battle, the heroes versus the villains. And we get a great rallying the troop speech by Barry. And I really appreciated him doing that and getting there. And even Sarah adds her a little bit in the end. And so I appreciate that. So
Yeah. No, it was nice to kind of see like Barry taking the lead. Normally in these situations, Oliver would take the lead. So I kind of liked that. That was neat.
Yep. And then we get Evil Ollie offering a truce, basically saying, we'll give you peace if you give us Supergirl. And our Green Arrow reacts to it and says, no, we're not going to do that. And I really appreciate that. So
There's the Ollie we know and love. He's like, yep, nope, bye.
Not gonna happen.
I'm not gonna consult with anybody. Not that they would say anything different.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, I do love that. That's the scene where you remember that group picture that was circulated for so long. I love that. Yeah, that's the scene it's from.
Yeah. Look, I know the whole, heroes standing on the stairs for the Zoom call, basically. And then their whole line walking into action is, I understand that's super cheesy, but I absolutely loved it. I mean, it was just so cool to see everybody gearing up into action, walking out there. You see Nate stealing up. It was great. I mean, I know it was cheese ball, and nobody would really do it that way in reality. Like you don't do that. You haven't done that going into battle since the Revolutionary War. But I appreciate it. It was really cool to see everybody, gather together, as we like to play our clip. But it was cool.
You gotta get the whole superhero slow-mo walk into the battle here to do business. You gotta have it.
Yeah. And like you were saying, the battle scenes were just amazing. We got to see everyone use their skills and powers. I mean, we're seeing Mr. Terrific's T-Spears. We're seeing, we'll get to it, we're seeing Killer Frost using ice bridges. We're seeing everybody get into the action and use their skills and abilities. And, just those few little seconds of each one giving them weight of having skills and abilities, it was great. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, no, I loved that, especially like the way that it was filmed. I mean, I'm sure it was probably done. I don't know if they could do that, how much they could really do that, but hopefully more than once. But it wasn't quite like a one shot, but you could tell there were very little cuts. They were moving from like section to section, and that was where they were kind of like featuring each pairing. And then, I mean, you could tell like some places where there were cuts because there would be like maybe like a special effect or like you had like the flashes zooming around. But
yeah,
I just liked how they tried to keep it as like organic as possible, of like showing the whole battle, but still individually recognizing each of the heroes. That was very cool. Very well shot.
Yeah. And I love getting to see Killer Frost do the ice bridge and carrying Vixen and Zari all over to the evil Wave Rider. That was just fun. I mean,
that was cool.
Yeah, y'all talked about it in the past, of her doing that. It's like Iceman from, the cartoon with the Spider-Man and Firestar back in when we were, at least when Martin and I were growing up. But it was so cool. Yeah, just to see the ladies come into the Wave Rider and do battle. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that was cool. I liked seeing even like, Killer Frost getting in on the action and she's kind of carrying them to and fro. I was like, well, that's creative.
Yeah.
Instead of having like Kara fly them up and drop them in or whatever. It's like, oh, that's fun.
And we kind of topped this all off with Ollie versus Ollie, Kara versus Kara, and Barry versus Thawne, and getting to see them all so basically evenly matched for the most part was just really neat to see, these other versions of our characters and getting to see the battles between them. And it was powerful, and I appreciate the way they did it.
Yeah, no, I did too. I thought this was very, very well done. And I like how do you fight yourself? Like, I mean, that's gotta be so difficult. They did a really great job showcasing that. So it was good.
And we got a Wave Rider versus Wave Rider scene too, so that was fun. So
I didn't even think about it that way, but you're right, we did.
Yeah.
So funny. I kind of already I weaved my notes through, and
Yeah.
it was great. It was a great big battle. They did it well. The pairings that made sense. They got to showcase everyone's abilities. It was good. It was good.
All right. Well, the wrap up. The funeral, like I said, was tough, but it was also sweet. I think they did a awesome job with it. I really do.
Oh God, yes. Was very well done. I have clearly blocked it from my memory. I'm not gonna lie. I did not remember there was a funeral at all. So when like Sarah has a quip at one point, I don't know if it was this episode or just some point during the crossover. It must have been this episode because he had just died. Where she's like, I'll cry at the funeral. And I'm like, did they ever have a funeral for Stein? I don't remember that. And now I remember.
Yeah.
So it was very well done. It was like I was watching it for the first time, which is not a good thing when it's super emotional and it's around 11 o'clock at night. So it was hard for me to wind down and go to sleep. Go to sleep after watching this last night. But it was good. That I liked that each person that they showcased putting the dirt and saying something had like something meaningful to say, like thank you for bringing Iris home to me, or thank you for believing in me. And so like I thought that was really touching with the characters that they showcased there.
Yeah, it was. And I appreciated, we obviously were dealing with Nazis in this crossover, and the fact that they brought up Felicity's Jewish heritage and Stein's Jewish heritage here, with the Star of David on his cross. I really appreciate how they honor faith in a way that, and we've seen that also with Zari as well. They're honoring faith in a way that is actually honoring and not degrading. And so I really appreciated that we're seeing that struggle that particularly the Jewish people dealt with. And we also talked about, how the Nazis went after homosexuals as well, but how they honored that and they carried it through even to the funeral. And so I just appreciated the honor that they did that with. So
yeah, that's true. And a thought occurred to me that I mean, there were many reasons that Stein's character had to leave the show one way or another. I mean, we all know behind the scenes, this was when Victor Garber was leaving to go and do his stint on Broadway. Didn't know when he would be done with that, if he could come back. And so that's why they were trying to get him off the show. But I also wonder if part of the writing of featuring it with the Nazis, and it ends up where that a Jewish character has to be sacrificed. So I wonder if that played into the theme at all.
Yeah, I don't know, but it was
not like in like a bad way or like a disrespectful way.
No,
just like that
but it makes
fit.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was something I was kind of mulling over while we were doing notes and stuff.
Yeah. So we get at the end of the episode, Barry runs over to Star City and picks up Diggle to officiate the wedding. And this is fun. Like he's like, oh, I didn't throw up, and then he turns around and throws up. I mean, it's it's tradition. Whenever he gets zoomed over by Barry, he's gotta throw up. It's like a little warning next time. So.
I know, not that it'll matter. Not it will make a difference, but I suppose that would be very disjointing.
Yeah, but like the Flash mentioned, I really loved Barry and Iris vows. I mean, they were great. I totally agree with him. I think there was a big period of the Flash that they weren't writing Iris well, and it wasn't doing well. But here, the love, you can sense it, and they got that back in their final season, thank goodness. But they did an awesome job with those vows.
No, I thought it was nice. I mean, we still, for them, I mean, we still kind of get their ceremony in the beginning, but I liked the vows. I thought it was well done.
So watching this again, I love Ollie and Felicity. I mean, back in Smallville, I was a Chloe, Chloe and Ollie shipper.
Yeah.
But, in Arrow, I love Ollie and Felicity. And you know what? I love them, but honestly, I still didn't enjoy them crashing the ceremony, because I felt like they deserved. I mean, I know we had a wedding like they alluded to earlier, but I felt like they deserved a wedding of their own. But so I still didn't appreciate the crashing the ceremony here again. But, Martin liked it this time. So, well,
Yeah, I don't remember it bothering me either time, to be honest. It's just, I mean, I'm thinking about it. It's very Felicity. She always has the absolute most awkward timing. I mean, she doesn't want to get married, and then all of a sudden they have these like beautiful vows, and she's like, "Wait, let's get married. No, I'm sorry. I want to do it." Like, it's just, she is very spur of the moment. It's just, it felt so Felicity. I mean, like, really, Iris is the saint here. I mean, she like totally lets them crash their vows. But I mean, I suppose they kind of already had their ceremony and their like big day in a way, even if it got interrupted by Nazis attacking. I don't know.
Yeah.
Super crazy. But so I feel like for them, they just needed to say what they wanted to say and make it official. And then I feel like it was just kind of like a bonus, like spur of the moment thing that like Oliver and Felicity got to also get married. But don't they end up having a ceremony in Arrow?
Yeah, I think so.
I think they do.
Yeah.
I feel like we do get that. So we weren't like totally robbed of it, but I do remember it catching everybody off guard. And again, I kind of feel like that was probably the point.
Yeah.
Now, last point I have. All right, I distinctly remember it being odd that they totally left Diggle out and behind. Do they ever say why in this episode? Just like a throwaway line saying why he was just hanging out in the Arrow Cave by himself.
I don't know, and I went through all 4 episodes to see if like maybe he was directing one of those episodes, and he wasn't. I didn't dig into that season of Arrow to see like if he was directing like the next episode of Arrow or something like that. So
yeah,
I don't know that they didn't, because like we got Guardian from Supergirl in the beginning, over on Earth X. We got most of our other characters in some sort, but we really didn't get Dig, and I don't know why. So I don't know.
Yeah, wasn't he already Spartan at this point in the series?
Yeah, but like I don't know. Like it would make sense why he wouldn't be on Earth X.
Yeah.
But I don't remember why they didn't bring him into play here. So I just don't.
Yeah, because the rest of Team Arrow came to play. So why didn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway, I do remember that being odd. I feel like we called it out last time too. So
yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Well, let's get into our favorite scenes.
Shape out an eagle!
All right. I am up first, and I called this one Get Off Our Earth.
Love it.
Step away from her.
There's no way.
My grandparents didn't survive the Holocaust so the world could be ruled by Nazis. So if you want Kara, you gotta go through me. And even if you do, you're not gonna win. Because we will not back down. We will keep fighting. So get the hell off our Earth while you still can.
As final words go, those weren't bad.
Lower your weapon.
Oh, that was so good. I'm right with you. Good choice.
So good. I was just like, oh, yes, you tell him. Oh, I miss her. I miss that character. I miss that show. But I miss that character. She was so good.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So I picked part of Stein's Goodbye. Martin pulled the whole thing. And so we're going to play it all. So it's kind of be a joint favorite scene between the two of us. So I'm going to play the favorite scene, and then we'll play Martin's response to it. So Stein's Goodbye, it just makes me tear up. The love and the compassion between this duo, between him and Jax, it was powerful. It was well acted.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's take a listen.
I'm dying.
What are you talking about, man?
I'm old, Jefferson. And even if I hadn't been shot, no one lives forever.
Great. I don't even want to hear you talking like that, man.
As long as we're connected, nothing more than an anchor around your neck. Which is why you must help me.
I don't understand. Not Cisco's drug.
Gideon resynthesized the liquid, which assures me it will free you from my body's biology.
And it will free you of mine. I'm the only thing that's keeping you alive, man. You're asking me to kill you, Gray?
I'm asking you to let me die so that you may live. Please hand me the vial.
Oh.
I know you think you're strong enough for both of us, but unless I do this, we'll both die.
Then we'll both die. I don't...
No, you have your whole life ahead of you. But now it's time for you to let me go.
I'm not ready for you to go.
I'm not either. But when you think about it, compared to the cosmos, one's life is just but a blink of an eye.
Really? You're gonna lecture me about astrophysics right now? Gray, please don't do this to me. I can't do this.
You once told me that I was like your father, and I said you were my son. How could a father do anything less?
Oh, Gray, please.
Thank you, Jefferson.
Great.
Stay with me, please. I'd prefer not to be alone. Please tell Clarissa and Lily that I love them.
I promise.
Thank you, Jefferson, for the adventure of a lifetime. I hope your life is long and full of love, just as mine has been.
Great. No.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I mean it's very well done, very well acted. It gets you. That's for sure.
Well, we just want to thank you for helping make our show work. A lot of you are discovering us now thanks to YouTube. And we want to let folks know that we have a way that you can support us, and it's through our Patreon. And this is how you do that.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
All right.
Do you want me to read it? All right.
Please.
We have got an email from Comic Geek Kev. It's a little lengthy, but it's okay. We love that. And he says, "Good morning, Legends. Episode 7. I remember this one, and I'm not impressed. It was fine, but nothing special. I feel like more could have been done with Mick and his father using a flamethrower is a bit on the nose, but it wasn't a terrible episode. I thought Grodd looked pretty good, better than he often did in Flash. And it's a nice reminder that they used to actually do time travel."
Mm-hmm.
I know. All right, episode 8. I loved the crossovers, and this was one of the better ones. This made me finally remember all the shows and the fact that at one point the CW was chock full of DC superheroes. And I missed the fact that at one point they were all pretty good. Some of the effects weren't great, but understandable given the CW and the vast amount of powered characters involved. To me, the Ray was especially off. He just didn't look right. But I really enjoyed seeing some of the characters again. Felicity, Cisco, still can't believe we didn't see him when Flash wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's surprising. I still haven't watched the final season of Flash. And Kara and Alex. I was a huge fan of Supergirl in the beginning, but like many of these shows, it sort of fell off a cliff. I think Arrow finished stronger than most, but just my opinion. I agree. Arrow finished very strong.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I could ever be an actor. I don't think I could cry on cue, but neither could Franz Drame. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm so sorry. So maybe I'd be okay. Still, the death of Martin hit me in the feels. Martin Stein, that is. Victor Garber was such a unique addition to the show, and he was missed. Sorry, Harley. Yes, I know. Very missed. I understand losing Firestorm. If he had been handled correctly, he definitely would have been too powerful, but he wasn't powered like he was in the comics. He basically just shot fire from his hands, not much different from Mick. Rarely did we see the actual power that Firestorm had or should have had, and he had to be expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Speaking of Mick and fire, Snart said something about not being allowed to fry people, but Mick's fire never seems to burn anyone. It's just more like a force weapon. That's always annoyed me. I know it's probably a budgetary concern or that, hey, just didn't want to show him burning people alive, but it never really seemed like fire. That's true. Quick note, I didn't get Netflix turned off in time, and I caught a glimpse of the next episode. I feel like we are about to watch the beginning of the end of Legends of Tomorrow as we get introduced to I can't even say it. He who shall not be Bo named. It's a tongue twister if ever there was one. And yes, you are correct. This was our, I believe, mid-season finale, and my prediction that Legends goes to the Goofy from here on out.
Yeah.
But we shall see. We shall see. Anyway, back to his email. I'll give episode 7 a 7 out of 10 super smart gorillas, and episode 8 9 out of 10 impromptu weddings. Felicity and Oliver should not have butted in on Barry and Iris's wedding. Someone in Flash's camp, your camp. You didn't like that. Anyway, I'm really enjoying the rewatch with you guys. I'm really glad you're doing it. Until next time, Comic Geek Kev.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Always good to hear other perspectives.
All right. Next up, we've got a voicemail from Dreamweaver. Yay!
Hello, Legendaires. Long time no here. Dreamweaver here, and trying to catch up on the rewatch. It's the time of year when I work 7 days a week for 2 months, so I'm a little crunched for time. But I definitely wanted to join in and rewatch season 3 again along with all of you. I've actually rewatched season 3 and all of Legends, and to an extent, majority of the Arrowverse a few times before over the years, especially over 2020 when nothing was happening. And I must say that I enjoyed this season much more each time I watch it, more than when I watched it when it originally aired back in 2017. I tend to soften on things and enjoy things more after I've given it some time away and come back to it and kind of just have that reflection time, away from the initial emotional reactions of live viewings. I've had a lot of the same criticisms as most others, as this is when the show really started to lean into the wacky more than the serious, and the plot story threads they built up seemed to get abandoned, for the Bebo. But overall, I really do enjoy this season. And I will say that the lean into comedy may have felt a bit of a left turn for the show and for the Arrowverse, but I do think it was needed, and Legends worked well for it. During Legends Season 3, this was also Arrow Season 5 and Flash Season 4, which, in retrospect, in comparison to some of the later seasons we got, was really not that bad. It wasn't the best, but it was not the worst. And then Supergirl Season 3 was happening. All of those seasons were pretty heavy and on the serious side. So Legends was both a good companion to that serious, but also a balance to the rest of the Arrowverse at the time. At this time, they were still leaning more into the character-driven stories, with the characters' lives actually being a part of the plot, like with the totems. And I like the totem storyline a lot, especially once the death totem comes into play, but they definitely dropped the ball on what they were building up to and decided to Voltron it instead of each of them being able to wield their totems individually, but playing off of each other, which is what it seemed like they were doing. And as you've talked about before, I think Malice was way better as this disembodied entity that we see through most of the season, that could play off your fears, basically get inside of your head, make illusions, all that kind of stuff. As the best handful of episodes still coming up, in my opinion, I don't think he should have ever had a physical form, but stayed as a disembodied thing that could manipulate time and fears. Having time as a prison itself is a cool concept, and using the anachronisms to break the prison was cool, but the physical form was just not cool and was frankly underwhelming. Especially in that last episode when we get there, we'll probably see they were stretching on budget for the VFX. There were a lot of things they played with and built up this season that were very cool and exciting and pretty unique, but the payoff was underwhelming in most cases. One of which is really in the forefront in Welcome to the Jungle, and they've already touched on it a few times in the season, but that of the anachronisms being connected to points in history that relate to the Legends' families, their ancestors. They really made a big deal out of it, and it seemed to be really tying into the totems being connected to Amaya's family as totem bearers and all of that. They made a really big deal of it, which I thought, one, was really good. And this episode was a great example of having the characters and their development be at the center of the storylines, and how not only traveling to cool time periods can be fun for the show, but the points in time that they travel to meaning something to the characters. Outside of Mick becoming an author, this honestly was probably one of the last big moments for his character and his overall development, at least that we liked, season 6. After the season is when they kind of started to have him drift into background character territory. Also, this season made me think about how Legends was sometimes treated as kind of the leftover show for the Arrowverse. On one hand, it's fun to still see the Arrowverse be so connected at this point, and seeing characters from other shows appear on Legends is a treat. But on the other hand, sometimes it feels like they rely on that a little too much, or they overuse it. Aside from Constantine, it does start to taper off after the season. But in this alone, seeing Grodd in this episode be the anachronism, and knowing that he sticks around for a few more episodes helping the Darks, it didn't feel necessary or like it really added much to me here. It did give Amaya a little bit of that animal connection, and not being one of the members from the future, seeing all the wars and all the stuff that comes after World War II, so she was kind of working through that along with, Grodd pointing it out to her. But did we really need Grodd for the rest of the season? Overall, it feels unnecessary to have him here. I feel like in this episode they could have played up Zari and Annalee's connection a bit more, with both of them losing families to a senseless war, both of them starting to become leaders, all of that, but it got a little lost there in the middle. And I don't know if this is the first episode that starts it, but we get a characters in a coma because they're busy with another episode here with Sarah, since she's the one from Legends that is featured the heaviest in the crossover. She was probably off filming scenes for that. So then on to Crisis on Earth X. I ended up only watching the Legends episode because I've watched the whole crossover enough times that I didn't feel the need to watch the whole thing again. But it is, in my opinion, the best crossover, as it completely just carried the story through all the episodes so well. It had all the characters involved and working together in cool and smart ways, and people got to play with scene partners that they didn't normally, get to. It just felt like a comic book, and in this sense, that's a good thing. And it also had real stakes and real consequences to it. Lots of big things that then get carried into the other shows and into the future of the season happened here. One of those big things, we'll just address right away, Stein's death. I know you've talked about it. I'm going to talk about it a little more. It's still sad, especially when Jax has to go tell Clarissa and Lily, because you can see right away on Clarissa's face so quickly that turn and realization of what happened without Jax saying anything. I think they did that really well. And I really did enjoy having Lily as a character, even if it was only sporadically across 2 seasons. She definitely would have been a fun addition to have stick around as a guest for a bit longer, be on the Wave Rider a bit more. And I definitely noted it beforehand when I've done my own watches, but it's still kind of hard to see the clear experience difference between Franz Drama and Victor Garber in the scene where they're saying goodbye to each other in the med bay. I mean, you just can't act off of Victor Garber in an emotional scene and just not get outacted. But it's still rough to watch knowing he had a full, Stein have a full family and retirement to get home to, or he could have just lived out the rest of his days. But, I do have to put a but in. Watching this again, a death, and one from a character that we've cared about for a few years, it completely galvanized the team and this episode. If there hadn't been a death, the stakes wouldn't have been fully felt, complete, and real in this crossover. I know there was, a lot of other stakes happening, the wedding being off, Supergirl getting her heart cut out, being in a literal concentration camp, but having an actual death, a sticking death happen, it gave the weight to this final fight against the Earth X doppelgangers, and if it had not been there, it would not have felt quite as heavy and meaningful. Of course, there is a somewhat extra layer of bad feeling to it, as Stein is very much established as Jewish and he gets killed by Nazis. So there is that aspect to it, which is a bit icky, but he was the one getting set up to be sent off all along. So I'll just stay conflicted on that certain plot point. And then to the rest of the episode, we don't see it much, and this honestly may even be the last time that we see it, but we see Ray's suit and Biggin instead of Shrink. I don't remember it happening ever again after this. He had a very fun entrance, holding the knife like that, and Nate had a cool entrance too, letting everyone out and getting his little Legends line. By the way, did you guys feel as nostalgic as I did seeing the cells in the particle accelerator lab? It felt like a long time since I've seen that set. And Zari got a full-on superhero suit. And then it just never shows up again. Not even in the Legends season finale or anything. It never appears outside of this crossover episode. And then that double wedding at the end still always annoys me, all these years later. Felicity, you did not have to interrupt them. I'm just saying. Could have saved that for Arrow. Overall, this is still my favorite crossover because of all the dynamics of everyone. Just how many set pieces they were able to utilize, going to another Earth, the new characters we got to see for a little bit, the integration of all the character struggles coming over from each individual show and getting resolved with other Arrowverse character help from characters outside of their own shows. And overall, it's just a well-told story, even if a bit cliche. All the fight choreography was great, and everyone got a moment throughout all 4 episodes, and even just in this one alone. Also, I forgot that this is the first time Nora appears, just setting it up, and we wouldn't even see her for another half of a season or learn who she was. Plus, all the repercussions that happened, both the good and the bad, are felt after this. It wasn't just a crossover that sat on its own and then everyone forgets about it. We even get Wentworth Miller back for a bit, even if it is Earth X snart. At the end of the day, I had fun, and I've been having fun with Season 3 of Legends. I know that the next episode introduces the biggest and bluest defender kind of to the whole run, but we also get everyone dressed as Vikings, so bit of a trade-off. And I'm not sure how many episodes it is from now, but now that we've all seen Stargirl, we'll have a familiar face pop up in a few episodes that I didn't realize appeared in Legends, so be on the lookout for that. That's all I got for now. Until next time, your friend, Dreamweaver.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you in so many points, and I appreciate the way that you can look at things as a whole and your background as far as filming and putting those things together. I just really appreciate it. And I agree with you and so much of it. So thanks.
Yeah, no, it's always great. You always have such great thoughts and you remember so much more than I do.
I know my memory's so bad.
Oh my gosh, yeah, my recall for this is terrible. I had legit forgotten more than half of the plot points in both of these episodes. So that's always fun. But yeah, always great to hear your perspective. So
good stuff. Well, and squeaking under the wire and making his deadline, we have a voicemail from Perry White.
Hey, Legends. Perry White here with feedback for Legends of Tomorrow, Season 3, Episodes 6 and 7. Welcome to the Jungle and Crisis on Earth X Part 4 as part of our Season 3 rewatch. Let me start with, obviously, in numerical order here. So let's start with the episode Welcome to the Jungle. It was just really cool and awesome to see Dominic Purcell sort of have the spotlight in this episode, and we got a whole lot of what makes Mick tick, and we learned so much about him and why he is the way he is. And it was just fascinating seeing him sort of get to take that journey and deal with his daddy issues and come out on the other side better for it. It's just, I mean, he's such a fantastic actor, and it sort of obviously boggles the mind about how they sort of wasted him so much in later seasons by giving him absolutely nothing to do. And we see how awesome he is when he has a good chunk of the episode. The good meat of the episode was about him and his character, and he got to do something with it. I can just imagine how engaged he felt in this episode and in this season, having so much to do, and pretty much how he was probably just ready to head for the hills and get the show over with in the later seasons, because basically he showed up, grunted a little bit, drank a beer, and then went away. And it's just crazy how you could sort of waste such an incredible talent and such an incredible actor in that way in the later seasons. But it was just fascinating to watch him shine in this episode. And the actor that played his dad, man, they were just sort of spot on together in terms of being mirror images of each other. And I'm just wondering how much they may have either worked together to sort of get those mannerisms and get those things in sync, or did the actor take it upon himself to sort of watch a few episodes on his own and sort of try to mimic the things that Mick did. Either way, I just thought their performance was fascinating and really compelling, and it was just really nice to see Mick have a storyline that was so nuanced and complex and had so many different layers to it. I'll be honest, the strange thing about the episode, particularly the ending of the episode, and I can't remember if they sort of revisited this, but I almost felt like at the end of the episode that maybe Mick was going to have an aha moment and say to himself, maybe I should go back into the past and maybe not kill my dad, right? And I'll be honest, I can't remember if the show actually sort of tried to do that. For something tells me that I feel like that maybe that they did. I'm not exactly sure, but either way, that was sort of where my mind was at, sort of at the end of the episode. It changed Mick, right? So if it changed Mick, you would think that it would obviously change the most significant thing that he's done in his life, and that's basically to kill his parents. And so, like I said, man, just an incredibly well performed episode and a great spotlight for Mick, Rory, and Dominic Purcell. It's just fantastic. All right, let me switch gears a little bit and just go into Crisis on Earth X Part 4, which in sort of in retrospect, I think it was probably one of the better, if probably not the best, crossovers that the Arrowverse has done. And I'll be honest, I did not go back and watch all of the 3 other episodes because I wanted to come into this one and just sort of see how quickly I could find my footing in terms of what was going on, the plot, and that sort of thing. And and quite honestly and quite significantly, considering what happens in this episode, it features, or the episode starts directly on Martin Stein, and appropriately so, because the emotional impact of what happened to him basically carried this entire episode. Um, and let me go ahead and get it out of the way. The two things that I absolutely positively hate about this episode, and makes it difficult to watch for two reasons, is what they did to Martin Stein, and it's difficult to watch because it's so emotional. I'm recording this basically moments after I watched it, and I mean I was crying basically throughout. And I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but and I owe the actor who plays Jax maybe a bit of an apology. I'm pretty sure he obviously didn't listen to the feedback the first time I watched this episode, but I remember distinctly the first time I watched this episode and offered feedback for it, the absolute first time. I believe that I was a little bit critical of his acting in the scene with Victor Garber. I think I might have mentioned along something along the lines that I did not feel the emotion of the scene come through his performance. And upon rewatch, I was absolutely positively wrong. I cried like a baby. And I thought his performance was fantastic. I mean, Victor Garber is an incredibly great actor, but I thought that Franz held his own, and and more than the emotional impact I got from the scene that he had with Martin on the deathbed, the bigger emotional impact and the bigger scene to me was when Jax went to go tell Lily and his daughter and his wife that he passed, man, and that just broke me, man. And he was incredible in that scene, and it was a powerful scene. And I thought his performance was fantastic. But I absolutely positively hate the fact that we had to see it. I know it was an emotional portion of the story, but I think they could have found other ways to have that impact by giving Stein the happy ending that he deserved. I mean, I understand if there's a character, if there's an actor on a show, and his contract is up, you want to get rid of him, he wants to go, sure, you kill him off. But Victor Garber would have come back at the drop of a hat anytime you wanted him to. And he deserved to live. And I don't care what anyone says, I will never forgive them for killing him off. It was a terrible decision, and there's no excuse for it. The absolute other thing that I hated about the episode, and it's actually about a plot line that I could not care less about, but it was the quote unquote wedding scene at the very end of the episode. Sure, it was Barry and Iris's wedding that brought everyone together for the crossover to begin with, but somebody needs to explain to me how it's cool in any respect that you basically interrupt someone's biggest and most special moment, the moment that they get married, and basically say, well, I guess we're going to get married too. What kind of crap is that, man? Who takes someone's special moment and decide that they want to be selfish and make it a special moment for them? All right, Felicity and Oliver, if you really want to get married, that's great. But freaking wait and let Barry and Iris have their moment. And I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud, because anyone who knows me will know that Barry and Iris are not the most important people or the most important couple in my mind. But they still deserve their own moment without having to worry about freaking Felicity and Oliver stepping on it by getting married too. Who the hell does that, man? That's, I'll be honest, that's just let me calm down. Let me calm down. I just thought that was a terrible, no good decision, and it's almost unforgivable. Anyway, so those are two of the bad things I did not like about the episode. The other thing that sort of, I don't want to say I didn't like, but it's still, I understand the relationship between Barry and the Reverse Flash in terms of the Reverse Flash has to live in order for the Flash to be what he is, and this, that, and the other. But I still have to imagine and believe that there had to be a better alternative other than just absolutely letting him go. I mean, what the hell are ever going to be the consequences of the Reverse Flash doing anything if theoretically Barry's always going to let him go? And certainly we have the good fortune of knowing what happens later on in the series and later on in the Arrowverse. But in that moment, it's like, what the hell, man? Are we always going to do this? You're going to do something bad, and Barry's always going to let you go. How does that ever end? I just thought that was sort of a it was not the best way to end their fight at this point, in my opinion. But I digress. Everything else I absolutely positively loved about this episode. Being the fourth part of a crossover affords you the opportunity of not having to get bogged down in exposition or setup. It's basically go, go, go from start to finish, because this is the conclusion of this four-part story that you're telling. And so because of that, automatically the pacing was great. The fight scenes, I'll be honest, probably, and I'm pretty sure Martin probably paid more attention to the fight scenes that I did, but I'll be honest, when the fight scenes were taking place based on the ground action that was taking place and the fights that were taking place in the sky, and all of the people who were running away from Nazis shooting and throwing basically grenades all over the place, it was hard as hell to really sort of tell who was doing what, who was running which way, and what the hell was going on. I mean, I understand it's really difficult to do when you have so many players involved, but it was hella confusing to sort of keep pace with what everything was going on. But it is what it is. When we've got so many elements involved, sometimes that's just the way it's going to go. I really did like the fact, though, that and obviously we had, I mean, you're not going to see it in the regular episode, but man, it was just so freaking cool to see everyone suited up in their superhero suits, especially Zari and in that outfit, man. It was just freaking cool to see everybody in their damn superhero uniforms, because it reminds you this is a freaking superhero show. So sometimes you have to go freaking full superhero. And I like the fact that they went full superhero. Like I said, I did not watch all of the parts of the crossover for this review, but I'm pretty sure I feel pretty comfortable saying that this absolutely positively was the best part of the crossover. At least it's left me feeling that way. Anyway, this has been Perry White with a long-winded bit of feedback, but it's probably best that I offer it to you in this form as opposed to having you read it in an email. Anyway, I look forward to hearing what everyone else had to say about these two episodes. The only bad thing that I have to think about is coming up soon will be an episode that features he who shall not be named, but he's a little bit blue and he's a little bit furry, but he won't spoil the good feelings that I have about these two episodes, other than the death of you know who when they didn't have to do it, and I'll never forgive him for it, and that'll be the last that I ever mention it. Anyway, this is Perry White making another deadline. I'm out.
Don't worry, it won't be the last I ever mention it. Glad I still have someone in my camp all these years later.
Oh. All right. Well, if you want to be like those good folks, this is what you got to do.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegendspodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at Tomorrow's Legends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends and become part of the community.
All right. Well, Flash has something more to say as we get ready to head off.
All right, guys, I hope you had a good show. This is The Flash, and I'm sorry I could not be with you guys tonight. It is Canadian Thanksgiving up here, so that's why I recorded all these files and sent them into the future with Gideon to get to you guys so you can have everything ready. But anyway, hope the show was good, guys. Happy Thanksgiving from The Flash, signing off.
All right. Well, everybody, we have 2 weeks off, and then we'll be back. And so, yeah, get your thoughts in on Bebo, God of War, and Daddy Darkest. So we'll be recording those on the 20th of October. Those things are due by 7 p.m. Eastern. So get in your thoughts. We would love to hear what you have to say about it.
That's right. So we have these next 2 episodes coming up, which it definitely changes the tone of the show for sure. So get a little bit more camp, a little bit more horror. It all kind of melds together in some big wacky ball of legends.
Yes. All right. Well, this is Xforce 11. So say we are.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, HBO, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network. Be sure to check out our partner shows, The Mandalore and Dive into DC, covering your favorite Star Wars and DC Comics properties. Thanks for listening.